Hey, welcome in everyone to Dom Time. We'll take more of your calls coming up, and we have Christine Flowers from the Philadelphia Daily News and John Featherman from Philly.com. Both are columnists, and John has run for mayor, libertarian position tonight. Christine is holding up the moral end here, and I'm trying to come up with the practical ends around the issue. Should prostitution be either legalized or decriminalized? Let's go to Joe. Joe joins us here on Dom Time. Hey, Joe, welcome in.
Hey, Dom, like your show, Dom.
Thank you, Joe.
Dom, these allegations that Menendez had sex with underage girls, all right, if that's proven true, in my opinion, he should be thrown out of the Senate. I don't know why they would defend someone like that with that type of behavior.
Well, let me ask John. John, do you defend any of this, or the allegations against Menendez are true? Because under American law, he can't go to a prostitute.
Well, under American law is very clear. You can go to a prostitute in another country as long as that prostitute is not under the age of what it would be illegal here. So if, for example, in your state it's illegal, the age 16, and you have sex with someone in another country, even if it's legal over there, you violated the law. So absolutely, I mean, if he had sex with someone who was underage, whether it involved a sex worker or anybody else, and he violated our sex tourism laws, it should be beyond the U.S. Senate. He should be in jail.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks very much. Christine, let me turn to you, though. It seems as if in the Netherlands, that's where I was here, in Holland, they've had more people engaged in the sex industry.
Yeah.
25% increase I've seen since they've decriminalized this.
Exactly.
And I think they would say, well, there's more tax revenue, disease is being controlled, and all that we're doing now is satisfying demands.
Ironically enough, we were just discussing this in Amsterdam, for example. They're seeing a rise in social ills. Actually, there is a greater increase in sexually transmitted diseases. There's been more of a problem with respect to overcrowding in certain areas, zoning problems with respect to the red light districts. And they're actually looking at pulling back and having more limitations on what was a very liberal policy with respect to both drugs and prostitution for years. And John made a great point. You know, we're talking about sex tourism here as well. There are a lot of countries that don't like the fact that they're a destination,
Thailand.
a sex destination.
Exactly.
Thailand. And in many cases, you're dealing with underage prostitutes, underage working
John,
girls.
when you wrote your piece today, Philly.com, did you have a sense of what the motivation is of people going to the prostitutes, and how does any of this play out? You think it's, let me make the case that today women are much more liberated, for want of a better term, yet there still seems to be a driving force toward this, and that tells me there's something wrong with it. That tells me intuitively there's something wrong with that. In other words, there's something perverted about it, versus today, it's not the 50s. You have women that are eager partners also. So why does this blow up and continue to flourish, do you think?
Well, this has been going on since the beginning of time.
I know, but the change is, after birth control, after attitudes have changed, women are engaging in it too. There's not the social stigma.
Right. Women are engaging in it because they understand that there is money involved in this
No,
business.
I mean that women are
Yeah,
having
they're
sex
using it
outside
too.
of prostitution.
I know, but
so
let me-
why this need? Why the drive? It's just intuitively says something is wrong with that.
The drive in particular, I spent the first half of the article talking about politicians. And again, this is a multi-partisan, nonpartisan, however you want to call it, whether it's Elliot Spitzer, whether it's allegedly Robert Menendez. It even involved a case of same-sex prostitution with Barney Frank. And so part of it is the politics. Part of it is the power. That you have these powerful men who can do whatever they want when they want to.
Now, isn't that a problem with women in these positions? Doesn't that offend you at some level? Where's the power for these women?
None of this.
They're powerless.
None of this offends me because the woman who was involved with Elliot Spitzer, I believe, got, or at least the escort agency got $5,000. So who really is in power? I mean, it really depends on how you look at it. Remember, you've got buyers for sex, but you also have sellers for sex.
So these women do have a degree of power here, Christine. They're not just the helpless victim who can't do anything else. These men are paying them the big bucks. Who has the power here?
Well, I think if you're talking about the Mayflower Madams and the
Right.
the DC Madam that Vitter was involved with, yeah, absolutely. But these are not the women who are having sex. These are the women who are they're the business owners. They're the ladies. They're like the in East of Eden, if you remember John Steinbeck, the I forget the name, Kate.
Right.
She was the pimp herself. I mean, she was the madam. And those are the women who do have power. But how can you justify a business model where you're deriving your profit from essentially exploiting the weakness of other people? And in this, majority of cases, it's women.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks very much. John Featherman, thank you very much. Your column appears a few times a week, Philly.com. We'll read you Friday in the Philadelphia Daily News. And I'll be back with my look at Joe Paterno and Joe Paterno's family. That's straight ahead. This is my time each week to take a look at something that's near and dear to me, sometimes funny, sometimes very serious. And it's very serious what the Joe Paterno's family is doing starting on Sunday, this pushback against the allegations against Paterno. I find what the family's doing, I try to be sympathetic, but at the end of the day, it's ridiculous. I've interviewed a lot of the principals around this, had Franco Harris on my radio show recently. And the single fact I would tell you as we see this play out over the coming days, with this mountain of evidence, the websites, the lawyers, the former attorney general, and all the people saying that Joe Paterno couldn't have done this, they are pinning it on one thing, that Jerry Sandusky was this mastermind who was able to groom not only the kids, but also to groom everyone else to cover up what he was doing. And that's just not true. Jerry Sandusky is a creep. He's a creep that's in jail, and he's no mastermind. Remember when Bob Costas asked him point blank about his attraction to children, young children, to boys, and you saw the stumbling, the bumbling, the internal dialogue there. That's not a criminal mastermind. What the Paterno family ought to do, and what Penn State ought to do, is to move on with this, to let it go, and not to try to find some minimal amount of facts that may or may not be correct to revive this. Let's try to remember the good that Joe Paterno did, and not, as we have seen, the complicity that he had in allowing this creep to prey on kids. Hey, I'll see you next week here on Dom Time.